I never told anybody this story before. Not even my wife. It was 1968 or 69, and it was my first week in Vietnam, and I was on my first patrol. Our mission was to meet up with Charlie Company about 20 clicks from a compound. We walked through numerous villages, and we came upon this one village that was that had been targeted by the Viet Cong, and most of it was burning to the ground. There were some bodies around the village, men, women, and children. I noticed this little girl sitting on some rubble, and I broke rank, and I walked towards her. She couldn't have been older than 4, maybe 5. She had this long black hair and these big, beautiful black eyes. I knelt down in front of her, and I could see that she was crying. Her mouth was open, but there was no sound coming out. Nothing. Not a sound. And I reached out to tell her I was going to be okay, and she leaped at me and wrapped her arms around me, and she squeezed my neck as hard as she could. I could feel her terror. She was shaking uncontrollably. I could feel the terror in her. And then she started to cry. The sound was coming out, and she was screaming. It must have went on for like 3 or 4 minutes, and then she pulled away from me, and she walked a few steps to the side, and that's when I noticed that there was an arm and a hand sticking out of some rubble, and it looked like a woman's arm and hand. And she started pulling on the hand, and she was saying something, and I didn't at the time know what she was saying. I figured out later it must have been Mama, because she kept looking at me and saying Mama. She wanted me to help pull her mother out of there. There's nothing I could do. Her mother was gone. That's when I realized how evil war is. And that little girl, that little girl lost her mama and her innocence in the blink of an eye. A blink of an eye. I picked her up, and I walked around the village looking for somebody that might know her, and I found this older woman that said she knew her. She spoke a little bit of English. It was enough to understand each other. And I gave her the little girl, and I gave the little girl a kiss on the cheek. And I left. I said goodbye, and I left. A few days later, I realized I didn't ask her what her name was. I should have found out what her name was. It's always bothered me.